Remember how you loved the stories at bedtime about princesses and fairy godmothers? Well, you may want to hold on tighter to your teddy bear and keep that nightlight on, because these are not your mother's bedtime stories.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Not Your Mother's Bedtime Story. I'm super excited this week. We have a really good, creepy episode for you. But before we get going, I just want to remind everybody of who everybody is. We have a big group here. Just a reminder, I'm Chrissy.
Hi, Colleen's here.
Hi, Sherry's here. Hey.
I'm Karen. I'm the mom.
And so before we get going too, we mentioned a couple episodes ago that we had a good Nashville trip, and we're happy to say that we've made it all back, all in one piece.
I don't know if Nashville will be the same, but we all made it back.
Nothing is supernatural. No. Although I don't know what was in that whiskey that one night. That might have been that was a little ghostly, but
Talk about spirits, right?
Watch out if you're on the fourth floor of Kid Rock and taking whiskey shots.
Kid Rock.
That was probably the scariest thing about that trip. So yes, yeah, that was.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. They did break.
Well, let's get right into the story. So tonight we have two special guests. I have JR and Elva, and I'm going to let them get straight into probably one of the scariest stories that I've ever heard. When Junior is my coworker, and when he first told me this story, I had full body goosebumps, at broad daylight in a pharmacy. So if that can happen, this is a really, really scary story. So I'll let you guys go ahead and take it away.
Okay, so I was gifted this figurine for like the dogs for the native state for Mexico. And it was a gift that was brought back to the US. And at first it was just kind of like, oh, it's a gift, whatever. Kept it. I've had this thing for maybe 15, 16 years. And then things started to get weird. It was like having these bizarre dreams of where I kept seeing the images in my room, my furniture, my bed, my sheets, pillow, everything, like even the PJs that I was wearing. So I kept having these bizarre dreams. And there was this little girl and like a teenager that would always approach, and they would come to me and they would interact. They would talk. And then there were times when they would ask for my help within the dream. And I would help. I would be helping them do whatever it is that they needed. And then in my wake life, like there would be pens would disappear on me, and then they would reappear. And then the closet linen would all of a sudden like open on its own. My bedroom door would open on its own. And I would always think, oh, it's just a draft, or the AC must have kicked in, or the heat must have kicked in, or whatever it was. I would always try to find a reason as to why it was happening, and I'd let it go. But then things started to get weird in my dream world. So it was kind of like I would all of a sudden just feel I wouldn't see the girl or the girls anymore, but I would have this dreading feeling, like this energy or like this just bad air coming into my bedroom. And I'd open my eyes. I could feel my eyes open, and I could start to see, but I couldn't see what it was. I could just feel it. And it had this really awful feeling, like I was terrified. I was scared. And I would have, like, my senses would kick in, but then my voice, I could talk. Like my parents could hear me. Whomever was in the house close by could hear what I was saying. And so I would scream, like I'd scream, like, wake me, like just wake me. And they would wake me. But what I was seeing in the dream was mostly just my own fear. But then one night I had this bizarre dream where I was facing on one side of the bed, and then I opened my eyes and instantly I feel somebody grab my hair. Like they just grabbed the entire hair. And I was struggling to let them loose me. Like I kept pushing, like I could see myself struggling. And then I heard this voice, and the voice said, tell it to show itself. And so I did. I was like, show yourself. And the more I said it, the more I could feel it loosen its grip on my hair. It was like, show yourself, show yourself. Until it finally, I could see it jumped over me and it stood on the side of the bed. And it was like this young male. I have no idea who this was, but it was just this young male, and he just stood there. And when I saw him, I instantly felt my anger. And I stood up in my bed and I looked at it and I was like, get out, screaming at it. And then I was screaming to get out. And then somehow I provoked it to get fear, because then I could feel its fear. And so it fell, like the young man fell, and he was trying to escape. And I was like, get out, screaming at it, get out. And so finally, like it switched. It switched from this man to this young girl. And then the young girl just stood there and it was watching me. And it just stared at me the whole time. And then I seen her walk past my bed, go down this hallway. And then that voice that I heard to tell it to show itself, it told me it's next to the closet. So then I woke up and I was like, oh man, what in the world is this? So then because I keep a dream journal. So I jotted it down and I went on with my day. So then after that, I knew that it was something that was not my overactive imagination. So I went down to the gifts, this little shop, and then I asked the guy there, I was like, so I have, this thing. I think the only thing that was next to my closet is this gift that was given to me many years ago. Could something have attached to it? And so he explained to me, yeah, the possibilities are. And I was like, okay, well, how do I get rid of it? So then he gave me some ideas, told me what to do. I purchased some items and then I went back. And then I was like, okay, I wasn't fully believing it just because, growing up, we were taught that this thing is real, but you leave it alone. You don't mess with it because you don't want to disturb anything. And so I just kind of ignored it. But the dreams kept happening and they were getting more and more intense. And so then I finally decided, okay, I'm going to prove to myself that this is real. So I started facing the whole way to where the gift was. And so I would fall asleep facing that way until one night I felt that same feeling come to me. And I opened my eyes and I'm seeing my bedroom. And then by now I'm prepared and I'm telling it, I was like, you coward, you show yourself. Coward, you show yourself. And I kept repeating it. And I kept repeating it until it finally did. It was like the weirdest thing because I couldn't see anything. And then all of a sudden, something just popped up. And it wasn't anything human and it wasn't anything animal. It was like this liquid thing that was maybe 3-4 feet tall. And it was thick and it was very transparent. And it was at the foot of my bed. And it just kept pacing back and forth. And I kept screaming at it, get out, get out. And it would just pace back and forth, back and forth. And then it stopped. And then it started walking or heading towards the headboard. And as soon as I saw it head that way, I reached out my arm and I grabbed it. I pulled it towards me and I was like, this is my house, get out. I pushed it away. And as I pushed it away, I woke up and I was like, okay, to me, that was the proof that something was in that gift and that I needed to do what this gentleman was telling me to do. But I wasn't like fully ready for it. So I put the gift in a box and I took it out of my room. And then a couple of weeks went by, nothing happened, nothing was happening. And then one night, my mom started having the same type of dreams that I was having. And she was screaming the same way. And I was like, okay. So I brought the box back into my room. And then one morning I woke up and I instantly knew. I was like, today's the day. It has to be today. So then I got up, got ready for work, went, requested that I leave early. They allowed me to leave early. And then I got home and I burned some sage and I went throughout my house and I told this thing to leave me alone. Don't want nothing with you. Just get out, like leave my house. And so it did. I believe that's what took it away. I grabbed the gift, put it in a bag, and then I broke it into tiny little pieces. I made a huge pile out of this thing. And then I put it back in that box and I drove far away from my house and I dumped it elsewhere. And I was like, I'm done. Don't want nothing with this. And haven't seen those little girls ever since.
Wow.
I know.
So all of this was happening like in your dream, but in your dream you could actually see, like you said, you could see your bed. You could see, it was almost like you watching this happening. So could you see yourself sleeping? Was it like out of body or?
No, it was my eyes. I could see myself. I could, like, if I looked down or if I looked sideways, I could see the lamp next to my bed and I could see my shirt and my PJs. I could see my sheets. Like when I opened my eyes, I could see my pillow. But when I would wake up, I would open my eyelids. So I was seeing through my eyes, but my eyelids were closed.
I didn't know too. When JR first told me the story, I thought it was a new gift, but you had actually had this statue for many years. Do you know why, or can you think of why all of a sudden it started to have these weird effects?
So the gift was gifted by a boyfriend that I had a long distance relationship with. He lived in Mexico, would come visit, and he would bring, and so he brought me this gift. And then like a year prior to this happening, his wife looked for me. So it was like, I honestly don't know, but there was a little bit of like his wife looked for me and was accusing me of these things and was being just a jealous wife. And I mean, we're two separate countries away. And then after, like a year after that is when the little girls showed up and the bizarre things started happening. That's when I figured it was the gift. And from there, I've not seen them.
And it was just you, right? That was having, you said, until you moved it into the room and then your mom was experiencing it, but otherwise nobody else in the house. It was wherever the object was kind of where the activity was centered.
Right. Yeah.
Where it happened.
Oh. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought that was so weird because I took it out of my room, and then my mom a couple of weeks after was the same thing. So then I was like, okay, no, I got to bring this thing back in my room. So I brought it back and until I finally got rid of it.
Hey everyone, sorry for the interruption, but after we finished recording, Elva remembered some particularly scary details that we wanted to include. I think they go right about here.
So when I grabbed it, I could feel it. The texture or the feel of it was like a snout, like a dog snout. You grabbed it and it was just like the roundness of the snout, the nose. And I grabbed it, pulled it towards me and screamed at it and pushed it away.
No. No, thank you. Yeah.
That part is terrifying.
I know.
And the
Right.
statue,
the statue
was a dog,
It was a
too,
dog,
right?
right? There were two dogs.
It was two
male
dogs.
and
Yeah,
female
two dogs,
dog.
a female and a male.
Right.
Mm-mm.
But it was posing as like a young man and a girl, but yet it feels
And there
like
was
a
other
dog.
times, like within the dreams, in my dream world, that it would come to me and I would not be afraid of it. Like I knew what it was, but it was the weirdest thing because it would jump on my bed and it would get on top of me, and I would be bothered by it. Like I'd be like, get up, like get off me. And I would throw my hand. I could see my hand waving through it, and it would pass it. Like it would go through it. It was the weirdest thing because it was like touching air. I don't know. It was just like I could see my hand going through it, and the dog was just there. It had like all these, like the snout of it, the nose. It was like filled with these teeth. It was weird. And it had an odor to it. It smelled. It smelled pretty bad.
Oh my gosh.
And in my wake life, there'd be times at night when I wake up and I could hear the footsteps outside my door, and then the smell would come. And I would always blame, like, what is that? Why is my sheet smelling this way? Like, what am I doing that smells this way? It was bad. It was just this really foul odor that would linger throughout the room, and then it would just go away. And then like random nights I'd wake up and the same thing, the smell and the footsteps outside my door. And it was just bizarre. Once I cleansed my apartment, none of that smell anymore. None of the footsteps have gone away. The sounds have gone away. I mean, it's the apartment to me, it's free from that energy, from whatever that thing was.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, like another like physical like manifestation of something beyond your dream.
Right,
Like,
the
the smell. The smell is like
the
not
touch,
just dreaming.
right?
That's
And the touch, yeah. So,
Yeah. The snout when I grabbed it, yeah, that when I woke from that, I was like, a dog? Like what like what would it why a dog? But that's what it felt. That's what and when I pieced everything together and it came back to that gift, it all made sense. I was like, oh, maybe it was some sort of demonic dog or something, something that broke loose, or I have no idea, but that's just my rationality of maybe it was something that came through. And because it is a dog, there's this belief in, like in Mexico, that there's the choloscuincle, the dog that is the dog that can cross between realms. But if one of those dogs actually is a bad dog and it just came across this gift and it found me.
Yeah.
wow. So Elva, you brought the object to JR's house too, is that right? Or
No, she just came and told the story to us to try to get some kind of sense out of what was going on. Since I kind of read about that kind of stuff and have some kind of knowledge, I guess. So I kind of gave my insight, and so she recited the story to us.
So what was your insight? Yeah, I want to know what you thought.
There was something attached to it. I felt like there was something some malice attached to it, and it just needed to be destroyed, or something needed to happen to it to get it away from.
So do you think it was this person's wife that was like unleashing something out of jealousy?
I think, yeah,
like activated
somehow or
something?
I don't think, I don't think she knew what gift he brought.
right.
But I think there must have been some sort of connection there that she must have triggered on their end. Things must have started to fall apart for them or something. And he probably in a certain way was blaming me. And so there's that connection between the object, him and I. So, I mean, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I haven't heard from either one, or I was like, okay, I'm done with that. I don't want anything to do with that. But that is very curious as to why all of a sudden is this gift now acting this way or doing this, or maybe it was the whole time since he brought it and I just didn't pay attention to it. But it was just one of those things that I honestly don't know.
I wonder if it had a twin, almost like a counterpart that could somehow connect. So like if she had, yeah, totally bizarre, but if there was something, because like I said, all of a sudden, so if there was, okay, I can kind of filter whatever she wanted to filter through. I don't know. That'd be
Right.
crazy. But
Oh, she could have found one of the gifts.
yeah.
Mm-mm. No.
Oh, you don't know where he purchased
No,
it
he just-
originally?
No, he
or
just brought it from Mexico.
where he got it from?
Mexico.
Yeah, interesting. And the whole weird thing where it was a young man and then it was like a little girl, like kind of morphing into maybe like something that would be less threatening to you, which is even creepier. I don't know. And then JR, you said too, after Elva had told you that story, you told me the story about what happened with your daughter.
Yeah, so it was a couple of days afterwards. We were just we were all sleeping, and around, can't remember if it was like 2 or 3 in the morning. Our daughter woke up and ran downstairs crying, and she sat in the middle of the living room down here, kind of where Elva was telling the story. And for no reason, she'd never done that before, and she's never done that since. But it was like really creepy to me that all of a sudden she just does that, and she just sat here and cried until I came down and grabbed her and picked her up, and then she just like grabbed onto me like really tight, like almost like she was scared. But it felt like she ran down here like almost sleepwalking but crying, and then when I picked her up, she finally like realized I'm down here, not upstairs, and she felt comfort once I grabbed her and woke up.
And she didn't say what happened, or
No,
did
she didn't say anything at all. It was bizarre.
That is crazy. Yeah. I mean, especially with, when it comes to kids, it's, they're doing something. It's not just, there's a reason for it.
Right.
And that's, yikes.
Yeah, well, that is really creepy. And maybe don't tell me where you've disposed of it in our local community, because I don't want to know or come upon it like on a run someday or something and get an attachment from a weird, creepy statue. But you said you put it in many small pieces, right?
Yeah.
So hopefully it won't
And
attach onto anybody else.
Interesting thing too is that I took a hammer, and it's supposed to be
Clay.
It's supposed to be clay. So it's supposed to be easy to break. And I took a hammer, and it was not breaking. It was not breaking. But then I was like, okay, I stopped, and I was like, okay, why are you not breaking? I looked at it, and I think I was hitting at, because what the gift is two dogs. It's one female, one male, and they were both connected at the core. And so I looked down, and I was hitting the female dog, and I was like, okay, no, I've got no beef with you. So then I started hitting the male dog, and that's how I finally got it to crack. And once I saw a little crack go through, I started hitting on there. I was like, okay, this is where I need to be. And so I started hitting until it became into tiny pieces. And then I put all those pieces in a plastic bag, put that in another plastic bag, and then I put it back in that box that I had stored it for a while. And I just drove away. I was like, I'm going to go as far away as I can, dump it. And I did.
Well, hopefully he didn't give multiple statues away to other women over time who experienced the same that you did.
Right. Dang, here's a statue.
Well, I know JR has one other story, but this does, bring up the idea of like, can an object be haunted? I mean, we know about haunted objects like the Dybbuk box that has supposedly a trapped spirit in it, or Annabelle, or Robert the doll, or even you guys remember when we lived in Wisconsin and the Horicon story of the Tallman family, where they had the bunk beds that supposedly had brought in some sort of entity. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, can there be a spirit or something attached to an object? I mean, obviously we've seen like this case with Elva where it was dormant for many years, but is there some sort of residual energy? I was reading this blog. It's called the HD Paranormal blog. And this person offered a couple of different explanations. And this kind of sounds almost like that, where it's like a residual energy left over from an event. They said think like emotions, where there was maybe like a murder or a suicide, where a strong emotion can hang on to something. Or they said even like a deep affection for an object, like a wedding ring, for example. They said if you wore this wedding ring every day, maybe it's got the ability to absorb energy and retain like some of the owner's energy. So that kind of does fit with this example. Or they said an intelligent, interactive like spirit of a person with a direct link or interest in a specific piece. So maybe like a painting. There have been stories too of paintings that have been haunted, like the crying boy, that the owners have this just intense dread and sadness. If you've put in so much physical, your heart and soul into something, could you possibly send some sort of essence of yourself? So, they said the painting wouldn't be haunted as such, but it would be acting kind of like a conductor or a magnet. It's just something that we just can't understand. So I don't know. It brings up, there's so many different cases of that, probably the most well-known being the Annabelle doll, which was so popularized with the Conjuring movies and the Annabelle movies. But, can something really attach to an object?
It might be, easier to attach to an object than it is to a living person. So, they talk about people, possession and things like that. So it might just be easier to clamp onto. Let's go back to like the movie Chucky, right? That's it was a possessed doll, and it was just looking for something to grab onto. It's like you don't know, but it's something innocent too that you wouldn't suspect. So it might be easier, and it's almost kind of devious to think about it. It's like, oh, I'm going to attach myself to a doll or a gift or, something like that people will unsuspectingly bring into their home. And now I'm there too. Hey.
I just want to point out that my Google just went off on its own and started saying stuff.
What? What are you Googling?
Okay, just my Google Home just went off. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
It does not want us talking about this.
So now we have possessed Google.
Get that Google out of there.
That might be a new one. I don't know. Maybe it's getting haunted too. But yeah, no, it's very, very interesting. And how you would destroy it. The family in Horicon, I think they did the same thing too. They said they took those bunk beds to an undisclosed landfill, and
they had to break it up and they buried it.
Right, yeah. And you obviously did the right thing by crushing it and just breaking it and getting it away. But yeah, if that is truly all you need to release something, I guess that's a little bit more comforting versus, having something release when you do break or destroy some sort of an object too. That's always the risk.
Yeah.
JR, I think we're ready for your story that also gave me the chills.
I went down to Mexico with my wife's family. Then she was just my girlfriend. So I celebrated my 21st birthday down there. So it's been a while ago, but the first time I've ever been there, first time I've met her extended family down in Mexico. And so I kind of was just getting comfortable with everything and how everything was going. And they had me sleep in one of her aunt's houses in just a vacant room with my brother-in-law. That first night was actually pretty interesting. So this is where this all happened. Was went and laid down, and it was pretty late already. And we were talking to one of their cousins for a little while, and then they left. And so it was just me and him. And we're sitting there just having small talk, and we were laying so that we could see towards the door. And it's just his cousin, which is about our same height and everything, and the aunt that were at that house. And so we're facing the house, the door, which is partly open, and we're looking out. We're both looking out there and talking, and all of a sudden, this shadow goes by, and it's about as tall as where the doorknob is. And as it goes by, I'm like, okay, did I just see that? And I turn and look at him, and he turned and looked at me. And I'm like, did you just see what I just saw? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. And it was translucent. It was just like a little, like if someone was walking through, but it was away from the wall. So it wasn't, it was something, you know? And so I'm like, okay, let's just brush that off and we'll lay back into the bed. And I mean, we're both laying in the same king size bed, and we're kind of facing away from each other now. And I'm like, we start kind of making small talk, trying to like get rid of that sense of eeriness. And we're both laying there, and I'm looking up, and I'm just trying not to think about what just happened. And there's a small window above, and it's pretty high up, almost to the roof of the house where you can see out, and a light just shines through the window. I look at my brother-in-law, and I'm like, is there a road that goes right there? Because I don't remember seeing a road. And he's like, he kind of looked a little frightened, and he said, we'll look in the morning to make sure that there's a road right there. And it looked like it was just like a car lights just going by. So then I'm like, okay, now I'm really kind of like, it's eerie to me, like what's going on. So then I lay down, and by this time all the lights are off. I'm just laying there facing the wall, and I feel like someone's watching us. And you know how you get that just eerie feeling, and then the hairs on my arm and back of my neck just start kind of like standing up, and I'm just like, why do I feel like this? I'm like, hey, are you still awake? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, do you feel that? He's like, I can't. Yeah, like someone's like standing somewhere, like. And I'm like, I'm too scared to look. And he's like, well, just cover your face with the covers. I'm like, okay. So I grab my hands, and I grasp the blanket, and I put it and press it over my face and against my forehead, and I'm pulling it as hard as I can towards it. And I feel this hand, like what I feel is a hand, come up over my hands and try to pull the blanket down towards me. And,
No.
and I tell my brother-in-law, there's someone trying to pull the blanket down. And he's like, don't let him. And so I pushed up more and more. And then all of a sudden, from how hard I was pushing up, it just let go. And my hands slammed behind my head because I was pushing so hard up. And I'm like, okay, I just need to go to sleep. Like, this is just like too much. And he's like, okay, well, just talk to me until you go to sleep. That's what he told me. Just talk to me until you go to sleep. So we're sitting there talking just back and forth, and I'm still covering my face. And finally, we fall asleep, wake up the next morning, and I'm like, wow, that was crazy. Did I dream that? And he's like, no, you didn't dream it. Like, that was so eerie. So then we walk down so the house is detached from her grandma's house. So we walk towards her grandma's house, and we're sitting there, and I start telling my wife's grandma what happened. And she's like, oh, so her dad, my wife's great grandpa, had just passed away, and he lived at the house to the right of where it was just a little mud hut where he lived at. Her grandma said, oh, it was probably him trying to see who you were because you're a stranger. And I was like, well, how do I make him not do that again? well, he's seen you now, so he knows who you are.
Yeah.
And then to top it all off, we walked down. We walked down towards where we thought the car had gone through, and we saw the lights. There was no road. There's no way a car could have shined lights through that window. And me and my brother-in-law both went down there because we wanted some kind of verification that, okay, it was a car. Well, it just made it worse because there was no way there was a car there.
I won't sleep tonight.
And after that, I didn't
pull the covers.
I don't think I had anything else happen. It just kind of just, like she said, he saw who I was, so he was okay with me being there now.
Weird.
Yeah.
So was he a short man? Because you talked about like the small figure up by the door.
I don't know. I looked up some stuff, and I mean, just from what I've read, it's just an apparition. It doesn't have to be the same size as what the person was, but they just want you to feel like you see them, which is why it was so obvious when he must have went by right there, because he wanted us to see him there and know that he was present.
So had the brother-in-law experienced anything like this prior, or had he slept in that room? I think he had. Before?
Well, he'd been going down there for years, so he'd never had any of that happen. And I'm kind of used to that kind of stuff because weird stuff like that happens to me periodically. So it was scary, but it wasn't as scary as he was making it. I think I was more scared seeing his face, which made me like my adrenaline go more than me actually like saying, okay, we're getting haunted or something like that.
So it was focused on you then. I mean,
it was.
Yeah. I mean, it's that validation though too. I mean, you can think, okay, I'm dreaming it. It's not real. But when two people experience it at the same time, you're okay. That makes it scarier too, because you know, it's not just you, it's somebody else, and you've got that shared experience.
Yeah, turning to look at him and seeing his face kind of just verified exactly what I had just seen.
It's the force though, that's what gets me, is the force that you were pulling so hard that when it let go, your arms flew back. I mean, that had to be, that's some, you know.
Yeah. Very, very strong ghost.
Yeah, right.
Whatever it was.
Strong great grandpa.
Grandpa was a tough one.
And just the feeling of the hand, like it was like so like vivid, like to be able to like, yeah, that's a hand grabbing me. Like you just know, like I'd never felt that. I've seen stuff, but I never felt something like that where it's like the hand is right there and you're like, there's no like mistaking it for anything else other than what it. Yeah,
that's
it
a hand.
was a hand.
Yeah,
and it wasn't your brother-in-law messing with you.
No, he was. I'll tell you what. He was right up against me, as close as he possibly could, back to back, and he was just like pressing up against me, and I could feel him shivering.
Yeah, that's so creepy. So creepy. It's like the act of physically being touched and, you know, having that occur to you, like Chrissy said, you know, having multiple people have the same experience at the same time. I mean, do you see that? Yeah, I see that. Okay, this is that's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. It validates. Right. Happening to you.
Yeah.
It's like, oh God. Terrifying. Jeez.
Well, yeah, JR, you said that you have some other stories too. So we'll definitely have to have you back when you talk about your past work experiences. Have creeped me out, but I really appreciate you two coming on tonight. Elva, it was really nice to meet you and to actually hear this story from firsthand from you. I really appreciate you coming on.
No problem. Thank you.
Great.
Yeah, thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for terrifying us.
Right. Now I'm ready to go to sleep and
Yeah. imagine how I feel going sleeping after having all that
Yeah,
happen.
that's true. That would really
Mm-mm.
cause some
Yeah.
insomnia, I think, after a while. You haven't had anything since, though, right? Once you destroyed the statue, it has gone away.
That part, yes, but just like JR, there's just creepy things that followed me since I was a little girl. But yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure there's something else in that apartment now, but I'm not going to mess with it. I'm not going to disturb it. It's just there. I know it's there and I'm leaving it alone
Wow. You guys are sensitive, I think.
because it's not attached to a gift.
My mom calls people like us beacons because she says that you're so desensitized from everything that goes on. It's like a welcoming.
Yep, they're attracted to you.
A huge thank you to JR and Elva for sharing their stories tonight. I hope everyone has a happy Halloween. But for now, take it away, Mom.
Thank you for listening, and remember to keep that night light on. Good night, sweet dreams.
If you have a story to share, please send it to notyourmothersbedtimestory@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Not Your Mother's Bedtime Story. And please help us grow by following us on your favorite podcast platform, leaving us a positive review, and telling a friend. Thank you for your support.